And in the lead up to Anzac Day, we look at the way Kiwi soldiers changed the course of history in the Pacific. Almost 59 years ago to the hour, New Zealand soldiers were drawn into one of the fiercest battles of the Korean War. They'd been planning Anzac Day commemorations with their Aussie counterparts when the Chinese army made a desperate attempt to capture Seoul. Part of a United Nations defensive line, the Kiwi gunners of the 16th Field Regiment helped blunt the attack and ultimately force an armistice. Mike McRoberts looks back on the Battle of Kapyong.
They're small in number now, but they're here to represent the 16th Regiment of the Royal New Zealand Artillery. Welcomed as heroes, 60 years ago they were farewelled in similar fashion. They were young men eager to follow brothers or fathers or uncles who'd fought in the Second World War.
I can still remember the streamers that were thrown down from the ship, even the song that was sung by the boys.
Which was what?
Forever and ever, my heart will be true, sweethearts forever, I'll wait for you. I can still remember it.
But the romance of adventure soon vanished. Kiwis fought a brutal enemy and a bitterly cold winter before arriving in Kapyong. The New Zealanders were the artillery support for a United Nations front that included Australians, Canadians, British, American and South Korean troops. A surprise attack almost tore that front to pieces. With the United Nations force pushing up towards the 38th parallel, the Chinese launched a massive counter-offensive, largely concentrated here in the Kapyong. The New Zealanders and the British Regiment Middlesex advanced up this valley to support the South Koreans, who were eventually overwhelmed. The Kiwi gunners had no choice but to withdraw back down this valley, with the Middlesex infantry riding on their guns.
I suspect that no one realised how deeply the Chinese had penetrated, and sending just one battalion up and one battery of guns was a bit like trying to spot an elephant with a fly spot.
What about the British, the men from Middlesex? They were quite young, weren't they? I think the average age was about 19.
They were, but they were pretty tough roosters. They were good soldiers.
Barry Austin Reid was one of those Middlesex soldiers, fighting alongside the Kiwi gunners.
Oh, they were super, and they were immensely helpful. And I also remember our first Maoris I met, and one was in fact a very tough battery commander. Yeah, I remember being very impressed, actually.
They needed to be tough. The Kiwis had to support the withdrawal of British, Canadian and Australian troops, allowing them to form a defensive line and prevent the Chinese army from marching into Seoul. You were staring the enemy in the face.
Yes, we were well aware that they could be having breakfast in our cookhouse if we weren't careful.
Last week in Kapyong, they came to honour those who gave their lives. Like the Anzacs of old, they dealt with it their way.
I remember when the Aussies were retreating at one stage and we covered their retreat, and a couple of them coming through our lines saying, "Thanks for waiting for us, Kiwis," and the reply, of course, was, "Well, you didn't have to take all bloody day."
The three-day battle ended on Anzac Day, 1951. There was no parade, just a couple of beers and some rest, and the inspiration for a poem.
For the guns, now like an orchestra, the targets they engage with a symphony of anger, a cacophony of rage. And from the hill above me, just beyond the nearest crest, comes the stutter of the Bren guns from the infantry hard pressed.
Mike McRoberts reporting.